Hello all, and welcome back to the YouTube channel of All Day Chess. Today we're going to go over some awesome endgame studies, and this brilliant position where this knight maneuver and the silent king move seals the deal, and white gets the checkmate done. So without further ado, let's get started straight away with the position. So guys, this is the study, and before it blows your mind, just look at the position. I mean, it's so weirdly formatted, right? But we can see that this black king is on a1, the very corner of the board, and there's a pawn about to promote. And here we have a knight and a king. If it was only a knight and a king against a king, a checkmate would be impossible. But now that black has a pawn, he can somehow self-stalemate himself, which is what we're going to see in this video. So our first move is going to start off with king c1. Oh, and before I go on even further, I'll just go over a brief explanation of the moves first, and then we'll get into some in-depth analysis. So we have king c1, right? And because this king can't move anywhere currently, we have a3, knight c2 check, which checks the king and attacks the pawn. And this king only has one square available, king a2. And here we play knight to d4. And then this is the idea of redirecting the knight around so that we can come and attack this king. And now they can't go anywhere except king to a1 once again. And then king to c2, which is actually a really nice move because if the king comes here or something, we have king here, knight here, king here, knight here. We're just redirecting our knight. And then now they cannot come back here. And then they play a2 and knight b3, which is the idea of the checkmate, right? So we'll go back here, knight to d4. Then they have to play king a1 like we said, king c2. And now king a2. And exactly knight e2, king a1, knight c1, a2, and knight b3. So now let's get into some in-depth analysis. Right, so what happens here? King c1. Instead of king c1, let's say we move our knight somewhere. This is not a win anymore. I'm very sorry. This is not a win. We can simply play king to a2. And if they try to get back their knight with check, we can play king to a3 now. And now if this knight moves somewhere, well then, this is completely fine as a draw. King a2, knight b4. King a3, knight here. And this will just be a draw. Right? So they obviously white does not want to go for that because this is a study and they want to try and win. So instead, they play king c1. Now one more thing. So if we know if they move their knight anywhere, this is bad because they don't guard the a2 square anymore. We can simply play king to a2. So now this king, what if this king moves somewhere else? Well, then it gives up some important squares. If the king moves here, then we can simply take king to b2 and try and promote this pawn. But eventually, let's say here, oh, sorry, it's white's turn. So let's say they move their king, they move this, this. And before they promote, white will capture, and this is an obvious draw because it's king versus king, right? So now what's going to happen is they have to play king to c1. No other move. And now the knight guards this square, the knight guards this square, the king guards this square, the king guards this square. So this would be checkmate if the black king was in check, but it isn't in check. And the only move possible is a3. Now, what we do here is knight to c2 check. Now the king is in check, king can't come here, but it can come back to a2. Why do we play knight to c2? Well, for example, if we play any other move, let's say king to c2, then they can just simply play a2. And right now, if it was black's turn, it would be stalemate. They can't do anything. And literally no matter what we do, it's going to be a draw. Because, for example, if they move their king somewhere, we can simply play king to b2, and now we're threatening to promote our pawn, so they have to capture back, right? And now let's say they play, let's say king to d2, then we have the same idea. Lastly, if they play king to c1, it's just plain stalemate, and the game is over in a draw. So what happens is we play knight to c2. Instead of anything else, we play knight to c2 check. And now after king to a2, we play a wonderful idea of knight to d4. The very important thing about this is it guards this b3 square. The king cannot escape now. It cannot. The b3 square is guarded, the b1 square is guarded, the b2 square is guarded. So now the only move possible is king to a1 again. And now we can play king to c2, a wonderful move. Discards b3, b2, b1, and now, let's say, if king comes back up here, we have a very neat maneuver. We can play knight back to e2, and now there's no other choice once again except king a1, now knight to c1, and now here if they want to play a2, we can simply play knight to b3 checkmate. And here if they want to play no other move possible because king a2, the knight's here. So they can't do any of that, right? So now after king to c2, they have to play king to a2, and then this is the line we just talked about, knight to e2, king to a1, and knight to c1. And now once the pawn pushes forward, it's a forced checkmate. So from this crazy position, white is actually winning and has forced mate in 7. How crazy is that? Well, guys, I really hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, post notifications, do all that good stuff. And I hope to see you guys in the next video.